and welcome. Hello, and welcome to tonight's terrifying tale of terror on Tuesday. Oh, that's a lot of tease. That's a lot of tease. But that's how we roll here at the Frumess channel. We have a first-time guest. It's funny. I've been on his show twice, and he has not yet been on my show. So I'm very happy to have him tonight on my show. He is a fellow filmmaker like myself. I think, what's interesting about Josh and I think we're very like-minded in a few different ways, both you just going down into the basement, making a movie, making it happen by hook or by crook. Although I will say, Josh has done some pretty cool shit. We'll ask him all about that and whatnot. So we're gonna bring him out in just one moment. So if you like filmmaking, tonight's show is very filmmaking themed. So if you're ever thinking about making a film, this episode might be really good for you. It might inspire you to want to go out and make a movie. All right, let me bring out Josh. He's in the digital green room right now. Let's bring him out of the digital green room to say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, how are you, Josh?
I'm doing well.
Welcome to my show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here. Dude, so what's up? Now it's my turn to say, dude, what's up? So what's up? What's up? Wait. Hold on. First, I want to know, I wanted to ask you, I saw you just said that you're very excited to see Furiosa.
Yes.
Have you ever seen this movie called El Mariachi?
I have. Believe it or not, once or twice I've seen El Mariachi.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
It's pretty great, right?
It's pretty great. That's funny. Yeah, I am excited to see Furiosa. I'm a big fan of sort of, I don't know how to put this because Furiosa, it's based on what I've heard people say, it's been extremely polarizing.
Extremely.
But the thing people don't like about it, I'm always like, well, that's what I like in a movie. So I'm really curious what I'm going to think when all is said and done.
I don't know your tastes in movies that well. I want to believe because you're such like an ingenuitous filmmaker that you will just from no matter what you feel about story, that like just from a craft standpoint alone, that's what I don't understand. Seeing so many filmmakers being so polarized by this movie, I'm like,
right?
Even just from a craft perspective, as someone who's gone out and you've made films, not you, I'm talking about whoever's talking. You've made a film, like, can't you just like imagine like what it took to make something like this?
I enjoy everything. It's pretty hard to like turn me off. I just know how hard movies are to make. So every movie I see all of the good. And anytime that there's bad, I end up just being like, I don't know. I generally respect the fact that they went for it, that they did their thing. It's pretty rare that unless it feels like a cash grab or lazy, but like nothing about, I've seen the trailer. It's not a lazy movie.
No, it's not that's a good point. It's definitely not a lazy movie.
So I don't know. I'm excited to go see it. And yes, I am a huge fan of El Mariachi. Although I will say, like, Once Upon a Time in Mexico is my favorite Rodriguez flick. I'm a big fan of the
really?
Oh, I love that movie so much. It was one of the first movies that made me. I was a senior in high school when I got it on. This is so amazing. I got it on UMD for the PSP.
Oh yeah. The little discs.
And I went to a private high school where we weren't allowed to watch R-rated movies. So if I watched R-rated movies, I had to sneak them.
Wait. Oh, so you went to like it was like a boarding school sort of situation?
Yeah. Yep. I went to school to be a pastor. So
oh my Lord.
Yeah. Believe
literally,
it or not.
Oh my Lord. Sorry.
Yeah.
Literally, oh my Lord.
No, literally. Behind me here, you can barely see it, but there's a Lutheran painting, a famous Lutheran painting behind me because I grew up super, super Lutheran.
Okay, explain to me. I'm a Jew, so explain to me first. First, I find that that's very interesting about you,
Yeah,
considering
because
where
I'm
you've
such a
gone.
fucking lunatic now. Yeah, I
No,
went.
no, no. Come
No, no,
on,
no.
come on.
Seriously though, no, seriously. I went to the first day of seminary or college technically, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I don't believe in any of this," and lost all faith. I am a
really.
complete atheist. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, wait,
But
wait, hold on. Can we back up for 1 second? Because this is fascinating to me. This is fascinating. So you go. I'm first of all, I'm guessing you grew up
super
religious,
Christian.
super
Yeah,
religious, right?
super Christian.
Are your
Private
parents,
school.
may I ask if and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, are your parents still very religious or are they
My dad is. I think my dad is pretty religious. He still goes to church. You know, he
okay,
still,
okay,
is part of the Lutheran church. And my mom has recently become kind of more Catholic again, although
okay,
she was Catholic, then like left the Catholic church and joined the Lutheran church,
okay.
and
Now,
then
what is the now that was my next
nothing.
question.
So here's the thing with my church.
Lutheran,
My
yeah,
church is there's almost no difference. I mean, there's very, very technical things like Catholic Church believes there are 7 sacraments. The Lutheran Church believes there are 2, or my Lutheran Church believes there are 2. There's like little things like that, stances on very specific things, but it's like, you know, it's minutia in religion. It's like
right. Just
being a
the semantics
yeah.
of the stuff.
It's like, are you more not totally not trying to get political in any way, but let's be honest. Are you more Trump or George Bush? Like
Interesting.
it's you know what I mean? Like it's they're both Republicans. Like it's
Right.
all it or
Yeah.
like are you more Biden or Clinton? Like
Right. I get it.
it's
I get it.
similar concepts of like they're both in the same realm, but there's tiny things that they make huge deals out of. Like the Lutheran Church doesn't give a shit about the Virgin Mary.
You
Like
know what's
that's just
interesting? You know
Jesus'
what's
mom.
interesting?
Catholics are obsessed with the Virgin Mary.
I asked my friends are my neighbors are Catholic, and I said, I was talking to them about the nuances of Christianity and whatnot, and it's my understanding that Catholic is like it's just like a whole other, even though it's semantics, it's a whole other thing beside that differs, and the big difference is that the belief in transubstantiation and the idea that it's the literal body and blood of Christ as opposed to the
Okay. So
symbolic.
that's a thing that the Catholics and the Lutheran church that I grew up in were the same on. Like
Oh,
they were like,
interesting.
yeah, our church was like they didn't go to the extent of like if you spill the wine, you have to cut out the carpet like like Catholics do,
Oh, damn.
but Lutherans were we were very like it is the body, it is the blood. In my church that I grew up in.
Did you so they
Um
have the little filter because it's Jesus, right? Like you have to burn it or in a special way, when they dump
yeah,
it
after
down
you
in
dump
the
it,
sink,
yeah.
right? Yeah, it's
I don't
crazy.
know. I don't know if my church did that stuff or not, but they said it was like that's how they treated it was like it was. In fact, they were very like um it's the blood once it hits your tongue type of mentality. I don't know. They have a whole it's all a thing. I
So
don't
let
know.
me so let me ask you this. And
To
again,
be
we
honest,
don't have
it's also
to.
been 20 years since maybe not 20, but going on 20 years since
Okay.
I mean, truly, that was when I was 18. Yeah, 20 years, literally 20 years. I was
So
18.
you went to the seminary, you were going to do that because of your family and background. Was that something, how did you decide for yourself? Here's my question. How did you assuming that you want to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it, we can move on. I don't want to press you on it.
I'll talk
Um,
about it. It's not I don't find it as fascinating as other people tend to find it because it is just like one of those weird things where it was like I was raised a certain way.
mhm,
Most people, when they're raised a certain way, they just continue that their whole life. It's
right.
really hard for people to understand why someone would go, I just don't buy this anymore. I'm going to peace out. And to me, that's not difficult. I do that kind of shit all the time. I became vegan literally 3 weeks ago, and I just did it. I just went like, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna eat meat anymore.
So
I'm
for you,
totally vegan."
it was like a light
It's
switch. One day you're just like, I don't believe this.
what I love to shock my system. I am a total like chaotic human being who just goes like, I want to shock my system. And so for me, sometimes that's a mental shock, sometimes it's a physical shock. Like I just want to go. Sometimes it's a literal shock. There was one time at when I was working at my first job at a car dealership.
Yeah.
I don't remember who did it first. It may have actually been me who accidentally did it first, but I grabbed this metal pole. I think it was my Uncle David did it first, actually. There was this metal pole and he grabbed it and it like gave him like this big shock, like a jolt, where he was like, "What was that?" And so then someone kind of like touched it and was like, "Ooh, it got me. You're right. That is a heavy shock." And I walked up to him just like, "Let's do this thing." And I grabbed it and just like and pulled off. And then
how old were you? How old were you when that happened?
18.
So that was the same time that you
right after so I left the high school or the college. I didn't go to college there. I like applied, went to the first whatever the first day is, like, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do this. And you have like 3 weeks to get your money back or whatever the hell. I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like that. And I just didn't go. I just stopped and I applied to I had actually, so here's the thing. I'd also applied to a, what do you call those? Community college.
Yeah, I went to a community college.
So I had applied to a bunch of colleges and they all turned me down.
Okay.
They don't want the kid from the private high school like that. They don't want the kid from the church high school. They don't want church boy who doesn't have any like actual school, like public school, background. So I applied to a bunch of universities, didn't get into any of them. Plus, I didn't really know why I was going. So, like at the time,
could you imagine if you had been electrocuted first and then stopped believing instead of the other way
that
around?
was the shock. That was the shock that sent me.
Which is very reminiscent. First of all, there's a Stephen King book called Revival that you should read that has to do with all the stuff we're talking about right now and electricity. It's kind of like his take on Frankenstein via H.P. Lovecraft. Check that out. Sorry, continue. You were talking about.
No, I have to. I actually, and then here, like speaking of shocking your system, 2 years ago, I moved to Atlanta. I was here for like 6 months. September, 4 months. And I decided, you know what, this year I'm going to try to read more starting January 2023. I was like, I'm going to try to read more.
Good goal.
And I was like, I'm going to read 12 books, like one book a month.
That's a reasonable, if you're doing a lot of stuff at the same time, that is a good goal.
So I was like 12 books. I had that knocked out by like March. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to do 24 books. And I just got obsessed with reading. I ended up reading 42 books last year.
So read Revival by Stephen King, please.
And I got into Stephen. I had only read Shining, and I think I read one other Stephen King book.
Okay.
The Dome.
I read The Dome. When it
first came out, and I hated them both. I hated
that. It fell apart. The Dome fell apart, but it started off pretty good.
I don't remember them at all. To be clear, I didn't like reading in the past. I found reading to be, because I'm a visual person, so I don't have a mental imagination at all. I don't see pictures. Like I don't see things in my head. So when someone says like, what do you think this carpet would look like in this room? Like when my wife is like, what if we painted the walls like a light blue? I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I have to do it in Photoshop because I don't know what that looks like.
So did you grow up with movies?
Yeah. Totally. I'm a visual person. I have to see it. Like I have to draw it. I have to make it come to life in some way for me to care about it. But
so then what did mom and dad?
And to be clear, I have a crazy vivid dream visual. Like in my dreams, it's like I'm in real life and it's terrifying. And I have night terrors and nightmares and like awful. Oh man, like awful night terrors, like sleep paralysis. Used to be a thing that I would have like 3 times a week. And by sleep paralysis, I mean like I'm laying in bed, cannot move, staring up at the ceiling, and something is coming at the bed, but I can't tell what it is.
You got a gargoyle on your chest.
And it lasts for like hours, and it's just terrifying. And that's incredibly visual.
Do you get bored? While being terrified? I guess if you're terrified, you're not bored. Like you wouldn't be bored.
Oh God, no. It's like so emotionally impactful. And you wake up in like sweats, like, oh my God, it's awful.
So does mom and dad let you watch whatever you want to watch, or do you can you only watch like certain kinds of movies? Were you limited to what you could watch?
They tried to limit me like big time, but I we had these neighbors. I was
The neighbors come through.
Yeah, so I was like probably 4 or 5 years old, and because I was before I was 6, because my 6th birthday we had moved to the new house, and they had kids. They had a son my age, but then they had 2 older boys, and one of them was a lot older, like, you know, 13 or 14 when I was 4, and they would let us watch anything we wanted. So I would go over to the neighbor's house and watch Nightmare on Elm Street or, the Child's Play movies, and I found them all to be really relaxing because my dreams are so terrible and,
I'm sorry to hear that.
awful. So then as a kid being like, "Oh, this is visually what I see when I'm having these awful, awful dreams." But I'm comfortable around other humans, and I know it's only in the TV. So horror movies became something to me that I could like relate to or feel comfortable with. But I also just loved movies because I don't have that visual imagination. And this is something I didn't find out until recently. Like I just realized, like within the last couple of years, especially reading books and reading about dreams. Like I started reading everything I could find. I've read every book in my house, and we have hundreds and hundreds of books. This year I've already read like 40 books, and
So you like reading now. You've grown to like it.
Obsessed with
so
reading.
please read Revival and then tell me that you've read it. And
I will.
I just know.
I just finished The Mist this week, actually.
The novella, right?
Yeah, which is really
I haven't read that one.
Visceral. It's super good.
The Long Walk. Read The Long Walk. That's another King, classic King. Bachman. It's Bachman King, which is when he was under the pseudonym I
haven't read that one. I'm still on the just like the ones that became movies and like everyone knows.
That I'm sure that helps too with the visual aspect. If you've seen the movie and then you're reading the book to help you with your mind,
does,
right?
But the thing that I found with books is I learned how to read in a way that I'm not trying to visualize it. Instead, I'm a very emotional person as well. So instead, I don't think about what it looks like. I think about emotionally where I am, and I can connect to books in different ways. I also found that I read a lot of like biographies and self-help books and books on parenting, and I read everything. Like the shit I've read, you would be like, why the fuck did he read a book on surviving in nature? That's like, it's like a big,
I'm not like fazed by that at all. I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome that you do that. And I think that, the key to everything, it's funny about my son is that like, my son is a reader and he's not really into reading right now, but he has the capacity to be able to sit down and read. And to me, like, I feel like reading more than any other thing, that is the key to unlocking the world. And so like, as long as he has that, and I think it's so amazing that you found that, you found it later in life, but that you found it and that you're exploring that aspect of yourself. That's wonderful. Truly.
I read a lot when I was a kid, like
a
lot when I was a kid. Yeah, when I was younger, I read every Goosebumps book, every sideways
so so you were a reader.
I was a reader when I was a kid, but then you get to high school, I got a little older and it wasn't cool to read anymore, and I kind of stopped reading. And then it just took me this long to get back into it and become like a true avid reader. Like I get made fun of for it. But here's the thing. Part of it was Stephen King. One of the books I read when I first started getting into reading, which speaking of, I'm writing my first novel as well. Which is, I'm really, really happy with it. I've written
that's not easy, right? Like free writing. It's when you're writing a screenplay, you have structure and you have rules. There are rules to writing a screenplay. With writing, it's just free balling, baby.
So here's the thing. I got in trouble for my screenplays because people would read them and they'd be like, you don't need all of this information. You're doing it like a book. You're too freeform with it. Like you just need to just say the words, just get to the stuff. I get that you're making us laugh, but we don't need to laugh at what we're reading. That's not going to appear in the movie. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the fun part. And they're like, well, then write a novel. So I've been going back and like fixing all my scripts, but at the same time, I'm like, well, then if I can do that, I'm going to write a novel. And in fact, I'm doing a novel based on this character this PI character named Bugs that I'm kind of obsessed with, that I came up with a while ago. And Bugs is this, I wrote this script called Eating Crow last year, and I was really happy, or 2 years ago now, Christmas 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, whatever. I was really happy with the script. We wrote at the same time. Dan was writing Abscess, which is the one it's a script that's like in pre-production right now. And I wrote the script called Eating Crow, and they're 2 action movies. And we just decided that Abscess was the one that we'd been thinking about more. It was ready to go out. But I loved the character in Eating Crow. And I started writing this novel. And then at the same time, I'm like, I want to make another low budget movie before I go into production on this bigger one. And so I decided to start writing a script on my Patreon. I call it the Flush Patreon Filmmaking Project.
Now, before you get into that, because that's really what I wanted to talk to you about. Before you get into that, I just want to rewind for 2 seconds, because I had a question for you in regards to the transition into filmmaking in the first place. And then we will talk about the Patreon and the project that you're doing, which I think is very fascinating, a wonderful exercise. And I'm so glad that you're doing that. When did the filmmaking start for you? And did it coincide at 18 with this, this change?
The filmmaking never started. I was always stealing my dad's camera and filming.
Gotcha.
The filmmaking, it's just being able to put something on video and then it lives forever was always like, it's the only way I could relate to what I see. Like, it's the only time I could see something and then try to recreate it visually. And a lot of times that was with animation, or it was with, I would do like little stop motion animations with my dad's camera, or like I had it figured out so I could actually punch the camera and go like 1 and 2 and I would click it and it would only take like a few frames, and then I could move.
I remember that on
and
tape.
Do it again, and on tape.
I did the same thing with Legos,
and there was little scratchiness in it and whatever, but it was you could just see it animate enough to make it feel like you were doing animation. And then I got a program called Animation Wizard, and I did these like rudimentary South Park ripoffs. And then I would run around with my friends and make videos, or anytime we could do a video for class, I would do it. Or at one point, I was in a play I went to a private grade school that had, 3 kids in my class, 12 kids, or maybe 20 kids in the whole school. So it would be the entire school was in this play, but I was the lead character, or I was the lead actor one year. I think it was 7th grade. And, I went through the whole process of learning all the lines, played this character. And then it came to the day where we got on stage and people were filming it. And I just like went for it. I went full like Jim Carrey, over the top. Everyone was pissed at me because I didn't like do the lines the way they were written. I started improvising shit.
So what you're saying is you're a ham.
I was a ham, but the only reason I was a ham in that moment was because I saw those cameras and I'm like, I want to know what works and what doesn't when I see those videos later. So I would watch that tape of myself acting over and over again and be like, I didn't like that, but I liked that.
Right.
And that didn't work, but this did. And so I was sort of
You're
like learning.
Acting for your own directorship.
I was. I 100% was. And I was just playing with it and seeing what I could get away with. Which again is my chaotic, like, push the system mindset, or push myself, shock myself mindset.
Now I know that you, just to fast forward a little bit to get us back to that Patreon thing, I know that you tried, your second film is technically your first film, because you tried to make Greywood's Plot. It didn't work out for you. I remember that from when I was on your show, like 5 years ago now. Can you believe that was like 5 years ago or something like that? It was a long time ago. You tried to make it, it kind of fell apart, and then you got on Rebel Without a Crew. Why did Greywood's Plot fall apart the first time? What were the lessons that you learned?
Well, I can't say it fell apart. We just kind of like didn't. I mean, yes, I say it was like a disaster, but I kind of say that
I'm just reflecting back what I heard you say. So if that wasn't what happened, please clarify.
It is what happened, but in as much as like that's every filmmaking process. Like every time you make something, you get there and you look at the footage that you shot the first week and you're like, oh my God, this is not a movie. And so, like I didn't have a movie after a week. Believe it or not, in 7 days, I hadn't filmed a whole feature. And I was like, well, shit. Like, what do I do now? Like, what does this become? And while all that was happening,
That all or nothing mentality.
and let's also like step back a little bit, because what really had happened was I had made about 40 short films and animations, probably more. I mean, way more than 40, if I'm being honest, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But some of them were like micro shorts. Some of them were, do it on the weekend. Like I have one weekend, let's go film something. Some of them were bigger shorts that I spent months and months and months on. Some of them were shorts for Kevin Smith. Some of them were shorts for other things. Like I had actually made, at that point I had made feature length animations for Christian media companies, because after leaving the Christian church, I applied for a job with a Christian media company in Minneapolis and got that job because I know so much about religion. And I was an animator that they were like, okay, why don't you come work for us as an animator? And I just knew enough and worked my way into being an animation director within like a year. So I was directing animated features for them. In fact, some of them are even on my IMDb, where I'm just like, why is this shit on here? Like someone else put it on there. I don't know why I'm connected to it in any way besides the fact that it paid the bills for a few years. You know what I mean? And I got married, bought a house, had a family, like did all this other life stuff. And so then once I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? I have done enough short films. I've done enough stuff. I'm going to go try filming for a longer form thing. And it was during the mumblecore like revolution of films, when the Duplass brothers were like blowing up. And,
Yes.
I'm wearing the Creep shirt right now. I had seen Creep.
I like Creep. Creep.
I had seen Creep like a week before we decided to do this. Like, I'm being sarcastic. It wasn't a week before, but it was like one of my go-to like movies. I was like, if they can do this kind of thing, I can do this kind of thing.
For me, that was The Battery. The Battery was for me.
Same Battery.
Same thing though. Yeah, I get it.
So there was all these like mumblecore movies dropping, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go out and try this thing. And we did. We didn't have a script. We just had note cards. We had a bunch of scene ideas, and we filmed some stuff, and a bunch of it is still in Greywoods, but we didn't have a real script. And so I came back and was trying to figure out like, what are we going to do with Greywood's plot? And then I just happened to get on.
Now I understand.
Happened to get on The Good Exorcist at the same time. But I mean, it was one of those things where I'm like, the movie wasn't supposed to be black and white. It wasn't supposed to be what it became. There was no stuff. There was more like zombie stuff happening in the woods than ended up happening in Greywood's plot. It was just a very different movie. I mean, spoiler alert, but I ended up becoming a Spider-Man in the original one versus a dog boy, like totally different movie. And, then after finishing The Good Exorcist, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a week, write an actual script off of what we have, cut together the footage we have, and see what I can do. And I started filming like all of the scenes by myself in the basement, like the suicide video stuff at the beginning of the movie. I filmed all that by myself and cut it together and was like, hey, Dan, what do you think of this? And he was like, cool. Want to go back in the woods and film some more? And then we did.
So you and I literally had that in common. That's what you were referring to when I literally did the same thing. We did the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
I didn't realize that that's what had happened with Greywood's plot, though. That's interesting.
Yeah. And then, and that was sort of how it all came to be. And I just continued on, and we actually like took it further and pushed ourselves really hard to make sure we could like make something we were happy with versus making just a mumblecore movie, like just making something like quick and sloppy, because that was the intention. The intention was like, we're just going to make something shitty and awful and throw it out there and see what sticks.
So how many days did you end up shooting on Greywood's plot the second time around, would you say?
I can't even say. We went for 4 days and filmed more stuff in the woods. But then it was just like weekend warriors. Like Keith would come over for a day, like an afternoon, we'd film. Dan would come over and we'd film, and I'd edit. So we were just basically filming and editing. After all was said and done, we probably filmed like 30 days total on Greywood's plot. But I don't even know how many days. There was no like set days. It was 5 days the first shoot, then it was 3 days the second shoot, and then it was like a handful of days. But there was There's the scene, the dinner table scene in Greywood's plot where he's like knocking on the table. That sequence we filmed 2 weeks before we were supposed to go to our first film festival. And
Wow.
it had been submitted. We had been accepted. The movie was good to go. And they were
You're
like,
let me
hey,
stick this in.
yeah, I watched the movie the last time before I was going to send it with my wife. And she finally watched the whole thing. And she's like, I don't buy that guy would follow the other guy. Like, I don't see where their friendship comes in. It feels like they don't connect really.
It didn't feel
And
earned enough.
yeah, and I was like, so then I sat down that night and I watched that whole like ending segment a few times, and I'm like, okay, I think I know how they earn it. If we do like a Texas Chainsaw style dinner with the two of them and they're having a conversation that's kind of messed up, but we kind of get to see into his mentality, what he's thinking after this all goes down. Dom, I mean, not Doug. Because we know what Doug thinks. Doug just wants his monster boy. But I was like, why? What does Dom want? And so anyway, I wrote that scene and I sent the scene to Daniel and I was like, hey man, can we film this before it's due next week? And he messaged me back, was like, I've got the perfect location. It's the basement of the place I work. We got the dog mask, we got everything else, and drove out there, me and Strauss and Dan, we filmed the whole thing. And in fact, I forgot to bring food because they're supposed to be eating and I didn't have any food. So we ran to the gas station across the street and I just bought some like chunky salsa.
Like,
and
why not? Like, that's the best shit though. Like when you're just like, when you go, you have a vision for what you thought is in the script and you're it's like the script is a law and you're like, but it's in the script. And they go, wait a minute, I can just change that. I can just, okay, so they're doing this. And then it makes it interesting and quirky and unique because you're doing something that you just didn't consider to do in the first place.
Yeah, and it totally worked. And like it's probably my favorite. I mean, even the music, my score person I didn't have any more budget to pay them. And he also didn't have any time to do score. It was due in a week. So I messaged him. I'm like, hey man, is it okay if I just like cut chunks from the score you already did and like put it into this scene? He's like, yeah, go for it. And so what I did was just took everything in order, every score in the movie in order, and cut like what emotionally in that score in that moment would work. So in that one scene, you get the entire score from beginning to end, like little pieces of every scene, but it just plays out the entire movie's emotional score in one sequence. And I thought that was kind of a cool way to do it. And it's what I edited the whole sequence to.
That is cool. That is cool.
So yeah, that was like a crazy process. I mean, I haven't had a movie yet that hasn't been an absolutely ridiculous process. Nothing has been by the books. Nothing has been by the numbers. And, it's just the way I kind of have worked up until this point.
It's it's frustrating in the sense of I'm hearing about your experience and I'm relating it to my own. And I'm thinking about the frustration that comes with, like the idea of like, I know that, or that we know that we can make something, we know that we can bring it to life, but that it's not going to come easy. It's going to take a long time. It's not going to be a straight line, and it's going to be a long-term commitment. And that's the part that can always be a little frustrating. But as they say, nothing good ever comes easy. You got to work. You got to work hard, and that really is what separates, the people that do versus the people that complain. You know what I mean? You just got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why. And I also think it's easy for independent filmmakers to instantly go like, if I had money, this would be so much easier, or I could do so much more. And having read now, like, I read the Oliver Stone autobiography. I read, so many of these filmmaker books. I've read, if there's a filmmaker book, I've probably read it at this point. And every single one of them is the same story of like how hard it was to get the budget. And then once they had the budget, how hard it was to make the movie. And then like how they didn't want to do it again afterwards, but then got somehow convinced to do it again.
Climbing the mountain, baby.
Yeah, it's the same story over and over. And that's why, like, for me, I, haven't done a low budget. I did this movie Scumbag. I wasn't able to finish it yet. I'm still working on it slowly.
Why haven't you been able to finish it? I remember when you were kind of working on it. I saw you posting about that. What happened? Why?
Yeah, so I filmed the whole thing in Minnesota in my basement, and then we moved to Atlanta, and I lost my set, and, like, I couldn't do pickups easily. I didn't have space to put up a green screen in my condo, or, like, not easily. If I put up a green screen, I'd have to tear it down that same day.
Did you need a lot? You
We
needed a lot of pickup stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very visual effects heavy movie. Tons of monsters, tons of weird stuff, and I had the concept of how I was gonna do them in Minnesota, and then when I lost my location or, like, my comfort spot, I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the mostly willpower because it honestly was just, like, I knew how I could put it together with the equipment I had in Minnesota, with the location I had and everything, and then when I was in the condo, when I had, like, a neighbor downstairs and I couldn't be as loud as I wanna be, I couldn't play music the same, like, I'm doing the score myself. Now, to be clear, Scumbag is a movie I'm making 100% by myself, like, 0 help from anyone. I'm running camera, I'm starring, I'm doing everything. I'm doing the score, doing all the visual effects, everything. It's an incredibly daunting task.
Oh, yeah.
And after pushing myself to um finish the filming, I just was so burned out. I just didn't have the drive to do the hard work of actually finishing the movie. And so,
You
yeah,
gotta put it
it's
on
one
the
of
shelf. You just gotta put it on the shelf for a while.
that's pretty much what happened, and I slowly and steadily have worked through it, and it's very close to being done at this point. I think it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't wanna finish it. Like, I sort of love I do, don't get me wrong, I really do wanna finish it, and I think if I really set my heart to it, I could finish it within a month, but I just haven't had the drive because
Do you
I don't
think
have
you
a place that I'm gonna
procrastinate?
release it. I don't have a place that I'm gonna release it. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm gonna do with it, so there's no deadline, and without a deadline, it's like, well, I'll work on this other movie instead, or this novel, or these things that I can give myself arbitrary deadlines. This one just doesn't have that. I mean,
Do you think
I
is
made
there an
Little
element of
Lucian.
procrastination?
No. No, because I'm working on so many other things. You know what I mean? Like, if I was procrastinating, I wouldn't be doing anything else, but I finished Little Lucha and the Big Deal. I finished 4 other scripts. I have a big budget
Very
movie in
prolific.
pre-production. Like,
Mhm.
it's not procrastination. It's more just like, I just
But you
don't
can have procrastination towards a specific thing. It doesn't mean that you could still be prolific and procrastinate.
I guess. I mean, I guess that it depends on what your, like, specific definition of procrastination is. To me, procrastination is when you're putting something off because you don't have the drive to do it. And I guess that to me is a part of this, but it's not that I don't have the drive. I think if I wanted to, like, if I wanted to, if I had a reason to, I would. I just don't have a reason to. I don't have the thing that's pushing me to finish it over finishing other projects. Like,
Gotcha, gotcha.
like the Super 8 project comes up and I did the Super 8 short film and I'm just like, this is more important to me right now. It's a matter of importance more than procrastination. Scumbag lost its importance to me
Got you,
at a
got you.
certain point, and I was
Mhm.
just like, it's not as important as other things right now. And at a certain point, maybe it will be more important. And I don't think it will be. I think what'll happen is it'll just be one of those projects where I'm like, you know what? I have a free month that I don't have a ton happening. And I now I'm in my house, so I have space. Now I'm gonna work on it. In fact, I did. This week I hooked up the hard drive again and messed around with it a little bit. Um, I know it's never going to be a masterpiece because it is a movie made by one guy during COVID in his basement. Like, that's what it was.
How much
And
is cut together, would you say?
95%.
Oh my god, Josh!
Yeah, it's almost done.
Just
It's
finish the damn thing.
Yeah, it's like 75 minutes long or
Oh,
something like
that's
that.
perfect.
Oh yeah, it's done.
That's
I mean, that's what I
great.
mean. Like, it's a lot of
I know
cut
the final
together,
slog.
but
The final
there's a
slog is always
and
hard.
there's a bunch of visual effects, there's a bunch of, like, score and stuff, but, like, the actual movie, it's there. Like, the structure is all there. You can watch it. Like, you could watch the whole thing from beginning to end, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's a movie." Like, I get it. It's just not completed. It's like watching an assembly cut right
It's like
now.
watching an assembly cut. And here's the funny thing about assembly cuts. I don't know if you know this or not. Assembly cuts are sticky. They're really, really sticky. And you know what else is sticky?
What else is sticky?
Stickers. And the official sponsor of the Frumess channel is Riot Stickers. If you need stickers, there's only one place to go. It's Riot Stickers. You go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. And that's where CEO Sharpie Riot himself has given a very special Frumess deal. You can get 200 die-cut stickers for $69 when you go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's FRUMESS. The link is down in the description right underneath flushstudios.com, which is where you should go to check out all things Josh Stifter. So make sure to go to cash in on this deal. What is a die cut sticker? It's a sticker that's made with a computer guided scalpel into any shape that you want. So if you want a sticker that's in the shape of Josh, if you want a sticker of Josh himself, you got to get his permission first. If you want a sticker of Josh himself in the shape of Josh, you can get that via computer guided scalpel, via die cut sticker, via riotstickers.com/Frumess. Okay.
No, I don't think you have to legally get my okay to make yourself stickers of me. I think you could do that.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
I mean, if you're selling them and making a ton of money, you may get a cease and desist from me. But what I've learned over the years is you can do anything you want until someone gets mad about it.
That's very true.
I was making T-shirts. My buddy was on Big Brother. My friend McCrae was on, I don't know what season, 13 or something like that. And I made T-shirts and sold them mostly to friends and family, like people who knew him. But I got a cease and desist after someone got mad because they wanted to make shirts. And I had already sold them. They were all already out. And I was just like, that was all I was ever going to make. Whoever, ABC or whoever. And it was just funny. It was the cease and desist I got once.
Let's play the quick 60-second Riot Stickers theme song by the guy from Less Than Jake, and we will be right back with more Josh. And we're going to learn all about what he's doing right now.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too, posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. RiotStickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
And we are back. Okay. All right. Let's talk about what's going on right now. At some point, you will finish Scumbag.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, nothing is ever set in stone until it's done. But yeah, I hope to finish Scumbag at some point.
So tell me about the Patreon no budget filmmaking challenge.
Yeah, so I'm doing this project where I just decided randomly I'm gonna go make a movie, and I really loved being on. I was on Rebel Without a Crew, the Robert Rodriguez show, and basically we had to make a movie for $7,000, shot in 14 days, a couple months to edit it. It was a very quick turnaround project, and we were on camera 24/7. So I loved this concept, except for the fact that I had no control over what was said. When Robert made El Mariachi and made Rebel Without a Crew, the book, i.e. his diaries, he had complete control over what was said. Like, he was able to teach people the way he wanted to teach. I didn't have that ability. So I was like, what's the version of that I have that I can do, and I can use it as a way to teach myself and make a movie. And if people want to join me on the adventure, they can. And so, being a visual person, I'm like, I don't think my version of that is keeping diaries of the process slowly happening, because it does happen way slower with me than Robert was able to do it, because I have 2 children and a full-time job and a mortgage and a lot of stuff. I can't just go to LA for 6 months and do that. But so I was like, well, what if I film it and I, take video diaries similar to what you did, but I specifically edit it. I do like actual like OTFs, and then when we go into production, I will film the entire process. Like,
Sorry, what's OTF mean?
oh, it's on the fly. It's like,
yeah,
what,
yeah, yeah.
in reality shows when the person is like talking to the camera and they're like, today was a really crazy day.
Right.
I can't believe it. John was
Narrating what's
yeah,
going
yeah.
on. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In
Mhm.
reality TV, that's called an OTF. And
Oh, okay.
on Rebel, I had to do OTFs all the time where it would be
Right.
like, find an hour or find 20 minutes that you're going to carve out today out of your shooting schedule, Josh, so you can do OTFs, and find time when Dan can do OTFs. And I had to find time for everyone while I was
Right.
filming to go do their OTFs.
And
So I don't have to
then
do
it's
that.
just like B-roll, 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 and that's reality TV, the easiest format that ever was, right?
Sort of, except for the fact that, like, if you really think about it, whoever's editing has to go through like
Yeah, that sucks.
5,000 hours of video.
Fuck that.
Like,
Fuck that.
yeah.
I know what that's all about too. So I could have, and I did that on a minuscule scale and couldn't imagine doing that day in, day out. Fuck
I was just
that.
talking to my brother-in-law about this. Imagine on Rebel without a crew. Just think about this. Like, actually think about logistically. Every crew had 2 camera people and a sound person following us around. So you have 5 crews. That's 2 cameras running for 20 hours straight or whatever. Let's say, 16 hours. So 2 cameras running 16 hours on 5 people, plus GoPros set up everywhere, and whatever other bonus drone footage they were getting, or third camera, because there was like another camera crew that would like jump between crews as well. Or like a third camera on your set. Just think about how much footage that is after 2 months. Like, it's absolutely insane when you think about that.
It's insane.
It's thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of footage that's just probably sitting on a server somewhere.
And so you're doing a much smaller version of this.
My take on that is like, what if it is more raw and it's my kids filming with their camera? I hire someone while we're in production to come out and film me, film the cast and crew as we're going, and they do the OTFs, they do the actual behind the scenes B-roll footage. But I get to keep it all. So all that footage goes to me, so I get to cut my own story.
Sure.
Which honestly would be, I'm going to make more of a fool of myself when I cut my own story than the reality TV crew did. Like, to me, that's the fun of it, is watching me fail more and watching the bad stuff that's really happening. The trials and tribulations of filmmaking. But at the same time, I want to really make sure that I'm also explaining to people my process, because I think there is a lot of people who struggle with not simple, but like concepts that, I've studied filmmaking a lot. Like I've got 40 years of studying filmmaking under my belt almost. And so there are things that I've learned that work for me that you can read in a book or you can see other people doing it, but it's never been explained to me in the way that I can explain it, having done it multiple times, like the way I write a script, the way I put together these movies. And hopefully it can help some people, but also hopefully it's fun. I really hope it's just entertaining and stupid and a blast to watch us attempt to make a movie, especially once we really get into production. I think it's going to be really cool.
What is your approach to sound when you're doing no budget stuff by yourself?
Oh, well, I've had, 3 different experiences with it, where with The Good Exorcist, my approach to sound was just get what you can, because you only have a few hours every day to film. And, we had lav mics and we had a boom, but like we had a construction crew destroying our sound in the background. And I could ADR as much as I could, but it was still a pain in the ass to actually get that working. Greywood's plot, it was very lav heavy, like my production. And to be clear, that's just for the sound, like the dialogue.
Did you find
my approach to
easier?
Sound? Oh yeah, way easier. Oh my god, yes. Lavs.
Why were lavs easier?
Because they work they worked. You could hear that they were working, and you
just have to monitor everything. Like, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, but the problem is when you're trying to monitor a boom, all it takes is someone just, bumping it slightly or something.
I know.
A
I've
log
done
just
it.
sitting there, it rarely messes up. Like when
Hmm.
someone is actually acting, they're rarely moving so much that law of anything happens. But
Interesting.
when you add in the boom and someone's trying to like follow them around, especially if you don't have a pro audio guy, it just doesn't come out as good.
You need a
And
pro.
there's a lot of ADR in Greywood's plot as well, but there's a lot of the biggest thing that I found is just like layering sound.
Yes,
One
totally.
thing that people don't understand is like a movie. Go look at a timeline, like a Premiere or Avid timeline of a big budget movie. They will layer 1,000 sounds that you don't even
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
There are parts of
Wall of
Greywood's plot
sound.
where there is 50 different sounds happening at the same time. You would never know that. You would never you'd be like, you're an idiot for having that many sounds. But I guarantee you
textures, all sorts of
feel
stuff.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
in some way they're there. And I think Greywood's plot was like the next level jump in sound for me, where it went from being like, you know, a low budget movie with the Good Exorcist to being something that people went like, oh, this is actually higher quality because of sound. And I think it's just improved ever since then.
It smooths things out too. If your
Yeah.
audio is a little like, not yours, I'm just saying in general, if your audio is a little sketchy, you can use other sounds to distract the ear and
Oh, yeah.
sort of mix it. It'll distract. So if you have a construction site, then fucking put more construction sites in, right? Like put more construction in, make it sound like there's construction happening in the background, cover it up entirely,
100%. Like that's a big part of what we did on Greywood's plot was like, finding ways to just layer the sounds in a way that feels like a wall of sound. I don't have another way to put it. It's really
it's a
just
wall of sound.
it makes
Sure,
you get
sure.
lost in the amount of noise that's happening so that you kind of just can forget that it makes everything flow and transitions shots and everything. And then Scumbag, that's been another big part of the process for me. Finishing it up is simply the fact that like the sound, I want it to be as good as that. I'm layering sounds like crazy. I'm doing a ton of
That's
interesting ADR. Because I in the movie I wear a gas mask the whole movie, so the whole thing has to be ADR because you couldn't hear me in the gas mask. Like sound just doesn't travel through it at all. So I've had to ADR the entire thing. It just takes time, and I get in the condo. I would get annoyed because we were in the city. There was constant noise coming into my room. Here now, I have a place where I can actually record audio because I'm not downtown Atlanta where planes are flying over every 10 seconds. Like the sound just did not sound like a guy who has bunkered up in his basement. So now I can finally finish that.
So what is your approach to mixing dialogue? Like where are you strictly old school? Do you put it between, -12 to 24, or do you push it louder for, smartphone speakers? Do you
It
go
depends.
higher
I think I push it higher, but I'm really
for
big. I mean,
dialogue?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll push it pretty high, but I also make sure that my dialogue now I make sure everything is in the proper speakers. So like dialogue is in the front too, because like I had to do 5:1 for Greywood's plot. It became a whole pain in the ass.
Oh my God.
And now, so now I'm pretty particular about how I do my sound. I mean, my hope is that I don't have to ever do it again, but we'll see on this low budget one if I can get someone to do it for me or if I have to do it myself. My experience of having people do it has been terrible. Like sound has been awful.
Yeah, you can't trust anybody. You just got to do it yourself.
But my friend John Sirimos, he did our sound on Little Lucha and the Big Deal, and I think it came out pretty good. I'm pretty excited. That's a short film that we did that I can't say where we're premiering, but we're premiering at a pretty cool festival. I just found out yesterday. So
Congratulations.
So so that one I'm pretty excited about, and I think the sound came out pretty good. The score I'm really happy with. I mean, really, I think the score is a quarter of the movie. Like that's just what I say. I think the score is, almost as important as anything in any movie. And I have had the same person do score forever. That my friend Curtis does the score, and he kills it on everything. And my movies don't exist in the way that they do without Curtis's score.
And to bring it back around to the front of our conversation, a George Miller film might be 25% like everything and 75% score.
Yeah.
Like you look at those 4 Mad Max movies are silent films with a little bit of dialogue. There are silent films. The entire film, the drama, everything is driven by the score. You look at Road Warrior, silent movie. You look at Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, silent movie. These are silent fucking movies that have dialogue in them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Fury Road was crazy. It was awesome because, when I went to see it, 10 minutes into the movie or 15 minutes into the movie, I almost went. I'm not a complainer. I'm from Minnesota. We just deal. We don't complain. Minnesota, nice, man. Like, you don't go bitch about anything. But that was the one time where I got like 15 minutes into the movie. I don't remember how long it takes before like the chase begins.
Sure.
And the dude comes in on the
Doof Warrior.
Yeah. So I made it to that spot, and I was just about ready to go complain that the sound was terrible, like that the speakers had been messed up, because all it was projecting was the front speakers. Like, that's it from the first chunk of the movie. And then the sound started like rumbling in the back and started moving in. And I was like, oh, this was intentionally in the front speakers. But it takes a solid 10 to 15 minutes before the sound actually hits the 5.1 in a theater.
Interesting.
And I mean, that's proof of how brilliant he is. That he
is brilliant.
That someone like me, like my filmmaker brain, was just like, why the fuck is the sound at the front? Like, why are we only using these 2 speakers? Something is wrong in this movie. And then once it picked up, and I was like, your heart starts to rumble from the bass picking up. It's intentional. He did it intentionally. But only someone like me, who knows how speakers work and knows how the theater works, would think like, it's broken. There's no bass. What happened to the bass? What are you guys doing? Like, what's wrong? And it was just George Miller being a lunatic.
So tell me, what is the new movie about, the Patreon film going to be about?
I'll give you a little tease, because this is one of the things I want people to learn about when they're watching it come to be. I want people to subscribe to the Patreon and
sure,
check it out and see, like, how does an idea come to be. But I had said that I worked on that Eating Crow script, and I loved this Bugs character. And my dream is that Bugs is played by a name, like someone legit. That would be amazing. Like, it's, for lack of a better, comparison, it's like my Inherent Vice. So having like a Joaquin Phoenix play the character that's like, I want someone like that to play Bugs in Eating Crow. And so I started working on this novel based on Bugs, because I wanted to play with this character more and learn more about him. And I decided, I was like, well, Robert always knew he was going to make this mariachi series. And he did. Eventually we got Desperado, and then after that we got Once Upon a Time in Mexico. And I love this trilogy, but I love the fact that, like, it started as this no budget thing where the mariachi character is not, the same actor. It changes after El Mariachi, and Antonio Banderas takes over. And I was like, okay, so what is my version of this same concept? And I realized my buddy, Sean Ashley, who he did the Homicide McCloud movies, and he did, he's done a bunch of really cool stuff. He's a low budget Troma filmmaker. He lives in Atlanta as well. We hang out all the time. We go get drinks and stuff. And I was just like, what if he played Bugs? He loves PI stuff. We love hanging out. Like, what if the two of us just made a movie that was like the El Mariachi version of Eating Crow? Like, just don't like pretend like, and it's already like a James Bond type of character where it doesn't all have to be exactly the same. Nothing has to really connect. It's just my PI character. Like, my dream is that I make 40 of these novels. Like, I make the first one, and then I just keep making stories about Bugs and his fucking stupid PI adventures in Atlanta. And so I sort of, I don't know, came to terms with this concept of like, well, what with low budget filmmaking, you just got to use what you have. So I'm like, what do I have at my disposal? I have some locations in Atlanta. I have some, people I know I can work with, and I know I have this Bugs character that I want to work with and learn more about. So I was just like, well, what if Sean plays Bugs? But also, I've always wanted to work on a feature with my oldest son, Max, because he's been in but like a bunch of my stuff. Super talented actor. He goes to acting school and stuff like that. I'm just like,
Cool.
well, what if I put him in a feature and we film like 4 hours a day. We do some weekends. We just do it really easy. I don't push him too hard, but he's not growing that fast that I can't get him in a movie over the next 2 months and film him in a bunch of scenes. And who cares if he
famous last words.
Well, I mean, truly true, but also like,
no, that you think it's going to be two months of weekends filming with your son. Just think that through before you do it.
For sure. But I mean, the whole point of this project is that I want to do it like Rebel Without a Crew. So I want to do it where I have specific dates that I can film on. And yes, we can film other ones, but I'm kind of dead set on this concept of like, we're going to film Max's stuff over like a month period. Like, he doesn't film after that. I have to be in the edit because I have to get it done by the time we start filming this next movie. And so we have to like move now. I mean, Sean and I are filming this weekend. So it's like we've started. We're going to be filming some random scenes we wrote because it's sort of the weird process where we can. And if we never use them, fine. But it's like, why not try it and just see what we can get done? Like the way Robert did his practice scenes with El Mariachi, where you could still see the behind the scenes Super 8, where he filmed like random test sequences. That's sort of what we're going to do, but with the hopes that maybe some of that footage makes it into the final movie, which, happened on Greywood's plot. So why not?
Right. So let me ask you this. We've danced around Rebel Without a Crew, and we have to wrap it up here. I just want to thank you again so much for coming on the show, and this has been really insightful to hear more about your process and your history and learning more about you. I'm curious to know, though. I'm really curious because, I mean, we all love Robert Rodriguez. We all read Rebel Without a Crew. What is Robert Rodriguez like? What is it like to work with him, to work for him? What was that experience being in his presence for you?
It was awesome. Robert was really great. He was really chill and like had a lot of really great insight. But I mean, I'm going to be honest. I was so dead set on just making a movie the Robert Rodriguez way that I barely wanted him to be involved because I was like, I already have the guide. Like, I have his book. I know what he's teaching me. All I really wanted to do was take his $7,000 and some props from his airport that he has, that Troublemaker Studios.
He has an airport?
Yeah, so Troublemaker Studios is this old, like, small air hangar. And so, like, if you look at any of the behind the scenes on, like Sin City, all of that green screen stuff, that's shot in like this big airport hangar that Robert owns. It's really cool. And like that's where he filmed. You see it in the beginning of Planet Terror when like that dude cuts off the other dude's balls and Bruce Willis's face starts to bubble or whatever. That's where we filmed Rebel Without a Crew. Like 90% of the stuff you see where it's like us hanging out, that's like at that airport hangar. And that's what we used. Daniel and I used that for the hell sequence in The Good Exorcist, that spot, because I wanted Daniel to have to kneel where Bruce Willis stood.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
wait, so that's how it's interesting. I bet you that's where he shoots all those, Shark Boy and Lava Girl things.
Yeah, it's all shot in there. All of it is. All those props are still there. They're all like all around.
He's just making stuff on the cheap, man. Like, I mean, not on the cheap, but you know what I mean? Like, he's doing it so economical. He's probably, wow, that's really interesting.
Hell yeah. I mean, the whole Alita Battle Angel set was done in that back lot, and they built it. Disney gave them a shitload of money to do it, but
that's amazing.
They still like built it. That's where I hung out. I sat on this like set that had like this $7 million huge fountain thing making my $7,000 movie. Like it was, and that's how it worked. But like also talking to the people who work for Robert, he still cuts corners wherever he can. If instead of paying, like a big company for, like instead of having Home Depot furnish the window frames, he goes to like mom and pop shops locally in Austin and buys them from them so that he's giving to the community, but also, it's cheaper. If you're going to buy that shit like from the big companies, you're buying brand new. You're not buying old stuff that, he wanted the Alita set to look old to begin with. So then he didn't have to fake it looking old because he was buying old antique stuff.
Was there anything about him that surprised you, that something that was so unexpected, being that, obviously, I mean, as much as you're enamored with Robert, I mean, as am I. I mean, and again, that book is a life-changing book. If you want to be a filmmaker, we all read that. It is our Bible. Was there anything that being in his presence that you like were surprised by in regards to him, just like amazed or enamored by?
I mean, the only time I was really like amazed or like really shocked was at one point I was talking about, they had a drone, but this was like before the like real drone, like you can buy a DJI drone and just like fly it or whatever. Like, and it was high quality footage. So they shot everything in 4K. Obviously, there was no 4K drone footage, but you could get a drone that had a camera on it, like a light camera that they would fly around. And they used the A6300 or A6500 with it or whatever. And that was the camera I shot Greywoods with. And I just like offhandedly was like, oh, they get to use the A6500, but I can't, because they wouldn't allow me to bring my camera. I had to rent a camera. That was one of the most expensive things in my budget, was renting a camera and slider. And I was like, so they get to use one, but I can't fucking use mine. And I said it as a joke, and Robert's like, that's the camera they're using? That's the A6500? I'm like, yeah, that's the one that we shot Stalking, my short film I did by myself that Robert saw. I was like, yeah, that's what I shot Stalking on. He's like, you shot it on that little camera? And I was like, so we just started geeking out over like random tech, and his producer, the lady who kind of runs this production, Cecilia is like, hey, nerds, we're supposed to look cool right now. And literally this shot is supposed to be like a drone shot as we're all like walking like a bunch of badasses, like Reservoir Dogs style. So you'll see in the footage, if you ever go back and watch Rebel Without a Crew, there's a shot where all of us, it's like on the last episode or second to last episode, it's like the 5 filmmakers, Robert and Cece, were all walking like badasses with this drone shot. And I look like...
Oh, no. No! Josh! No! Wait, here he is. Hold on. That was
what just happened.
You just cut out, and you were about to finish your story, and then you cut out, and then I just went, no.
That's funny. I have no idea. My computer just started to like try to update something. So apparently that's what happened.
You were talking about geeking out, and there's a cool drone shot, and
yeah. And I look kind of bummed out or pissed off at the end of the when you see the clip, and that's very outside of my personality, but it's because I had just got yelled at for being too nerdy with Robert Rodriguez.
So did he get yelled at though?
Yeah, CC yelled at both of us. He was like, "Hey guys, come on, let's take it down a notch and be a little less nerdy."
So was he annoyed, or he just kind of brushed that off?
Oh, he just brushes everything off. Robert doesn't.
But you were annoyed because you're like having a moment with Robert.
No, I mean, yes. And I'm such a geek that I'm like, I'm talking about cameras. We're making a show called Rebel Without a Crew. Like, this is the footage you should be using. So I was just like, I don't want to look cool. I don't care if I look cool at all. I don't need the drone shot. What I need is like talking about, I mean, in the show, you see me talk about sliders with Robert, and Robert's like, I don't use sliders. I do everything handheld. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. but you can't get a shot like this. And I showed him how I use the slider, and he's like, yeah, that does look pretty damn good.
So did you see any cool like what were like, did you see like From Dusk Till Dawn props? Did you see props from like El Mariachi or
Yeah,
from
I saw
Desperado?
everything. Tons of props.
He's
I
got
saw,
like a
like,
museum,
everything.
right?
Yeah,
Of everything?
pretty much. And like his office, you can see it in the show, but it's this really cool, like, dungeon looking room with this big tape, this big wood
Very cool.
table. And I mean, I remember one time he's like, what did he say? He was like, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he's like, check this out. I've got Danny Trejo in the back. And we were like, what? Danny Trejo in the back? And he came out with this like little baby doll, Danny Trejo from one of the Machete movies. I think it is what it's from. I can't remember, but it's this little creepy baby Danny Trejo. And just, he has stuff like that everywhere.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome, man. It sounds like it was an amazing experience. I wish that we got as many seasons of Rebel Without a Crew as we did Project Greenlight. Do you watch Project Greenlight at all?
I did. Yeah. I enjoyed Project Greenlight.
That last one, okay. The last one that they did, like the revival, she was insufferable. I'm sorry. I don't know if I made it through
that. I'm not sure if I made it through that season.
She was the worst, man. I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean like, I don't want to be a hater, but like, I think that sometimes they pick problematic people. The guy before that, in the season before that, who wanted to only shoot on film, and they gave $300,000 to shoot on film, that guy was problematic too. And I feel like they're not picking the filmmaker because they're a good filmmaker. They're picking someone that's going to make for an interesting reality TV show. And that was the cusp of the last season. What are we making? A good movie, or are we making a reality TV show? And it became very obvious that they didn't really give a shit about the movie that was being made. They cared more about the reality TV show.
For sure. And that was like right at the time where there was a lot of, politics happening in the industry with Me Too movement and everything else. And it was just a very confusing season to watch for me. I didn't see any filmmaking. I wasn't learning. I don't think I even finished it. I never saw the movie. That's for sure.
It's good to watch if you want to learn how to not like act on a set. Cause like, I could not believe the attitude of this filmmaker. I just could not believe it. I was blown away. And what I came to realize was, oh, you did not pick this person because they were the best for the job, or because they had the juice, or because they were interesting. You picked them because you saw the cracks, you saw the potential for pitfalls, and you're like, okay, this is going to make for interesting TV. We're not just going to trust in a filmmaker who's like going to really like give it their all and just hope for something interesting to happen. We're going to ensure something crazy happens because we're going to put our trust in someone who's entirely unstable. And that sucks.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping, like, I cannot do. Like, I can do this more raw and real with mine and make it more, what I would want to watch or what I would want to see and show.
Project Josh Light. That's what we're going to call it.
Project Josh Light.
That's the name. That's the name of it. For the
no, man,
Patreon.
I was literally thinking about this 2 days ago on my drive home after the vacation, and I was like, what would have been awesome is if they had done like Rebel Without a Crew, the series, and continue to bring people on. Like, I'm like thinking about it, and if there had been like 5 more seasons, I would have loved to see people's movies. I would have loved to have those people on the podcast. It would have been so awesome for me to have had that, but sadly that didn't happen and never will. If you can even find Rebel Without a Crew at this point, kudos to you. Cause
I was asking you about it. I want to watch it. I've never seen it. I've never actually seen it. Are
you serious? Oh, I'll send it to you.
Oh, thank you. I saw Robert Rodriguez. He did a making of Red 11. I watched that, which was also Rebel Without a Crew, but it wasn't the same.
No, it was Rebel Without a Crew Film School, and ours was Rebel Without a Crew, the series. They were supposed to be basically season 1 and season 2 of the same thing.
I watched 2 episodes, I think, of the show. That's it. I did not watch. It's funny. I saw The Good Exorcist without having seen Rebel Without a Crew, which is hilarious. Like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't see both, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, I'll send you a link to it. It's really fun. I think you'll enjoy it.
Please
but
do.
also,
I would like to watch it.
If anyone else wants to see it, there's potentially a Patreon where you get sent a private link to all of the things I work on. And I'm not going to say what you might potentially be able to get, but you potentially might be able to get something if you subscribe to the Flush Studios Patreon. But
we'll put that. I didn't put that link. First of all, you got to put that on your website. That's not on your website. Your Patreon is not on your website.
It's on joshstifter.com. Nothing is. The flushstudios.com website is busted. It's nothing right now.
There's joshstifter.com.
Yeah, so if you go to,
dude.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's confusing.
I'll add that too. I went to Flush Studio. Okay, now I see it. All right, I'll add that too.
Yeah, so I don't have control over flushstudios.com. A friend of mine started running that and it kind of fell apart. We've never really gone back to it. But but joshstifter.com I run.
See.
And
I like your site.
And then
let's go to the site real quick. We're right here right now. Check this out, everybody. Woo!
Yeah.
Cool.
It's got a director's reel, links to the Good Exorcist. I don't know where that Rebel Without a Crew link goes. It probably just goes to the website.
I like this right here, as seen on. That's really cool. That's a good way to follow Josh today. Here's the Patreon. Yep, we got the Patreon. We'll put this in the link of we'll put this in the description. You know what's funny? I don't give out individual links. I just give out my website now, which has every link. Mm-hmm. It's like, what's the point? And fuck a link tree. Like, I'd rather just have everything go to my website where I could see the analytics. I could see all the stuff. I have Squarespace. I don't know what you use, but I really like Squarespace a lot. Oh, you got a little chat icon right here. That's cool.
Yeah, you could chat with me right now. You could chat with me right now. Let's see if I actually respond to that.
Oh wow, that's really cool. I gotta figure that out. Okay, so guys, like, check out the Patreon if you're curious about any of the stuff that Josh is referring to, and look at all the stuff. He really is a Renaissance man. I mean, he does animation. It would take a long time to do an animation movie, right? Like, that would take forever.
Yeah, but actually, it's another thing I've been considering, because I think I could do one that's more like simple and raw. And this was a concept I had many years ago. I had a script I was starting. It was called Graphic, and it was like a very not stick figure, but a very simple style and feature length. But I just haven't done it. There's too many things.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think the turnaround time is on, like, say, like a credit sequence? Obviously, that's very subjective, but in your style, what if you were doing a credit sequence? How long would that take you?
You know, like it would depend massively on what was expected, like what type of animation.
Right.
But like, you know, maybe a couple weeks for a credit sequence, but it actually depends on how much time I have, what I've been working on, budget, like all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it just becomes it's, you know.
You could buy yourself an American Codfish limited print.
You know, I'll tell you something. This is a fantastic idea for a web store. And where do you print these? You just have them already printed?
Yeah, I have a super nice printer that I print all my digital prints on.
Oh, shit.
Sometimes there's like actual, like that painting. I do put paintings up for sale sometimes, but when I moved to Atlanta, I had to take them down. But that one actually sold for $350.
You sold this for $350. Amazing.
I did.
You're giving me ideas, buddy. You're giving me ideas.
It's one of my favorite pieces.
It's nice. I like it.
And hopefully the person who bought it still enjoys it, because that's a piece that it was one of my favorites I've done. But I have a couple more. Now that we're moved in, I actually have them. They're upstairs right now, and I want to try to get them out at some art, you know, get them up in like a gallery or something. And I have a handful more that I'm like halfway done with, because when I moved from Minnesota, while I was working on Scumbag, I was painting a ton, like teaching myself to paint and doing all these weird characters like that one. And then they went into a box, and they've been sitting in a box for 3 years because I didn't have a space to take them out in my condo. But now that I'm in a house, I've taken them out, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, got to do something with them. And there wasn't room in the condo for me to just like have all my painting stuff set up and like be able to utilize when I'm feeling creative. But here I can do that. So I'm going to start painting more again.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah,
I mean,
this was awesome.
This was so much fun. I learned a lot more about you than I knew, and I really wish you luck with Project Joshlight. And I really think I'm gonna keep pushing and lobbying for that to be the official name. I know you're not going to use that, but that's what I'm gonna call it. Listen, Project Joshlight, like that is really good. You could use the logo, like fuck them, use their logo and just put Josh in there instead, and you could just do your own thing, and you should do that.
You know what? Maybe you know what'd be really funny is if Project Joshlight was, because what I want to do is like live chats, like from set with the crew, and like jump on the Patreon live and be like, hey, ask us questions. We're on lunch. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. And that could be Project Joshlight. Is
it could be
the live streams, or when I put it all together into a documentary at the end. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but let's just say I do that into one feature-length documentary, Project Joshlight.
I'll tell you something. You never know you're going to make a documentary about your life until you accidentally make a documentary about your life. It happens. It definitely happens.
I love it.
Okay, we have a nice way of saying goodbye here. We say peace, hair grease, and we will see you next time. Actually, I think we'll see you tomorrow. No, maybe not. I don't know. It depends. I'm very willy-nilly and loosey-goosey when I just decide to do a show or not do a show. So we will, WS, thank you for tuning in. He'll check it out tomorrow. Okay, bye, everybody. Josh, hang on 1 second.